Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. So I've got a bit to cover here, so I'm just going to jump straight in. First of all, starting today, Friday, November 21st, the Avatar The Last Airbender Magic the Gathering set is out. The whole release stuff has basically happened. It's available on Magic Arena. If you want to play digitally, all the products should be available from anywhere that stocks Magic the Gathering stuff. So exciting times, of course. You have play boosters, collector boosters, bundle, commander bundle, jumpstart boosters, pre-release packs, the beginner box, and scene boxes. All this is available. But then also note that you will be able to buy singles on the secondary market as well. As I've covered in some of my previous content I've done about the Avatar Magic the Gathering set, I earlier on put up my first pack opening video covering the bundle, so check that out if you are interested. I will have more Avatar Magic the Gathering content coming out as the rest of my stuff arrives over the coming days. Next, just to cover some publishing stuff that's happened recently, Avatar Legends Bending Academy Fire #1 Light It Up is out now. It came out earlier this week on the 18th. You saw yesterday I put up my non-spoiler review. I will also have a spoiler review coming at some point in the next few days, and I will do just a few chapter analysis videos because it's a relatively short book, but I will have decent coverage of this. A lot of people are reporting that they're having a pretty difficult time getting their hands on this, especially it seems like for me in Ireland trying to get this from Amazon, they're giving me a estimate of the 28th of November, and I'm not even sure that's a particularly confident estimate, so it's a pretty tricky situation here. No digital version, it seems like, so that seems like a massive oversight. I get there's a lot of images in it, but I don't really know what the problem necessarily is, so that feels like something that needs to be sorted out. Something I completely forgot about was this Team Avatar Treasury Omnibus Edition came out last week on Tuesday, November 11th. Again, this is just the final format, basically, for Team Avatar Treasury, the first Avatar one-shot comic trilogy in the omnibus format, which again is the same size as the individual ones, but it's obviously a thicker book because it's all three books collected together. This should have all the extras, basically, from the library edition, except it won't have the annotations because that's exclusive to the library edition format. So just be aware that this did come out. I probably will pick this up at some point. We'll see if I get around to doing a video on it. But yeah, just a reminder on some of that publishing stuff. Then we get into something actually quite interesting here, which is actually some Legend of Aang The Last Airbender news. And that is what basically is our first official image of Aang from the movie, basically. It's complicated, but as you can see here, the Avatarist posted this: adult Aang spotted on Paramount cast and crew hoodie. So it seems like someone, I guess, was selling this or sold this to a collectibles store, and people found the listing or whatever, and you can see that here is Aang right there. It's obviously a general Paramount thing, so you can see SpongeBob, Smurfs, TMNT is on this, but Aang is there as well, and it is actually his kind of new design. So this looks to be our most kind of up-to-date look at this. I would assume that the cast and crew getting their kind of crew gear is something that happened probably after the kind of 2023 kind of initial image. I think you can tell the design looks a little bit kind of cleaner. They've had a little bit more time to kind of, redo it a little bit while still keeping it broadly the same. You maybe don't get the best look at it here, but because this came to light, other people kind of highlighted that oh, the crew have stuff with art from the movie on it. Let's look up stuff about that. And people did find that, hey, someone also who worked on the movie got their crew t-shirt, which features what looks to be the exact same image of Aang, just in a kind of line art style. So you actually get a pretty clean look at the kind of line work, at least for the Aang design. So if you kind of compare between the two, you can kind of add the kind of colors onto the colors from this onto the line work here, and it's kind of interesting. Definitely looks kind of clean overall. Broadly, like I said, similar to the original from the leaked image that we saw before. It looks nice, but again, it is just a sort of promo image. This is not like a screenshot of the animation in action. It is a promo image being printed on t-shirts and stuff like that. Now the question is sort of like, hey, if you were doing this, why wasn't this image just like officially released at some point to generate a little bit of hype? It's so weird that this is the way we're finding out about this. It's just that, oh, Paramount being very cautious about everything, and then the entire crew, I guess, just got stuff that had the Aang movie design on it. And I'm guessing a lot of this was probably just that the crew was probably just like, are we allowed to post that we got this, or is this like under like NDA or something like that? It's one of those weird situations. But anyway, that is the Aang design. Also note the sleeve here, it's kind of cut off on the image, but you'll note the logo here is the newer logo. It's not the original one that's up on like the official Instagram. You can tell just from the design of the G that it's actually the newer logo. You can see the G here is much more simplified, whereas on the original logo, there's a little bit more kind of complexity to what's going on here. You can see the colors are slightly different, but I guess for the basic color printing on the kind of black t-shirt, they've just made it a more basic image. You can also see like it doesn't have the logos over the G. That might just be because it's a relatively small like version of the logo and it doesn't have every single part of the details. But what I think this tells us is that this logo probably just is straight up the new logo for the movie. That this isn't some like international logo only being used in like China and like maybe Asian regions or something like that. No, it's just that I guess officially they haven't got around to telling us anything directly, publicly as news where they would need to highlight a new logo yet. So we're finding out about it through the last time they talked about the movie here, and then crew t-shirts, of course. So just a funny situation. There's not too much to maybe kind of talk about necessarily because it's not the most clear kind of thing overall. And I think we roughly know what the adult Aang design is going to look like. And it's more so we want to see the movie in action. We want to see all the characters' designs. But still, it's a nice thing to kind of have here overall. So yeah, that's that. Then we'll just get into this pretty quickly. So Judy Lin had an interview, obviously this time post City of Echoes, and she answered some fan questions, including finally I think giving us answers about some of the kind of continuity questions that we had about the book. Mostly the whole the Pow family tea house manager. What's the deal with his name? We knew him as Pow, because he was referred to as Pow in an episode, but the book calls him Feng. What happened there? And then also, what happened with going home again? Why wasn't going home again? Why was that scene not featured in the book? She does give answers to both of these things. I'm going to do my best to kind of summarize it here. I'm not going to go into crazy detail here because I want to make it clear ultimately that I'm pretty cool ultimately with the decisions made here. If the character is now officially named Feng, which seems to be the case, fair enough. It's a small minor character, but we need to talk about what the explanation actually is. So on the Feng Pow situation, her explanation basically is that no, it wasn't an error. She actually wanted to do this because in her mind, the scene where Quan mentions that Feng's name is Pow, and poaches Iroh, was in her mind, she interpreted this as this is a little bit of upper ring versus lower middle ring kind of class dynamics in Ba Sing Se happening, and that he basically just assumed his name was Pow when his name actually wasn't. And so that's why she made the decision to go with the character being called Feng in the book. She talks a little bit more around it, but fundamentally that's the core of her answer, is just that that's the way she interpreted the scene initially, in terms of like the characters, what the character's name originally was. So she introduced the character's like actual name here. The only reason I think that this is not maybe the most super like amazing response to the question is just that within the actual just text of City of Echoes, this is not here. This connection to what she said as the explanation for this just isn't here. Like, this is cool as a after the fact explanation for like, oh, this was your intent when you really kind of get into it, but yeah, it doesn't come through in the text because we don't reference this scene super directly. No one overly calls out this idea. You have that line in the book where, like, you know, contrary to popular belief, like, none of the POWs actually worked here. And it's like, okay, but like, how do you, in a way, obviously make the connection between that and then the line from before? It's like, it's kind of there, but it's also like, you know, there's a reason I think people jumped to, is that not just an error? Because it needs further explanation. Admittedly, she did say that in her answer, is that like, yes, she probably should have explained it better, which I think is fair enough. Is that like, yes, you needed more direct reference to what you were trying to do here with regards to presenting this point about upper ring people potentially coming into this tea shop and making a lot of assumptions that unfortunately isn't really there in the actual book. With going home again, the point that was made here was mostly just that it was kind of, I think like we assumed, that it was probably a tricky scene to try and fit into the book, given what was actually happening in the plot with Jin and everyone at the timing when this theoretically like would have happened. She tried, but it seems like was unable to find a way to properly make it work. She does say that like there's spots where it still could be fitted in. I'm never going to feel super strongly about that, as the kind of the quote-unquote solution to this problem is just like fit one of the only pieces of Jin content into the Jin book just because like you couldn't fit it in. That's to me not super ideal, and it speaks a little bit to how, okay, because it's a short story comic, was it regarded kind of as like something that they could just be a little bit dismissive with? Potentially. I appreciate that some effort was made, but yeah, I do wish that there was some way was found to more directly reference it. That, like, in my mind, I don't think you even had to directly have that scene be in the book, but I think you could have, in a way, come back after one of these kind of like gap little time skip periods that happened and just have Jin highlight that, like, oh yeah, in the last week I actually did come across Lee again, and just have that kind of acceptance of like where she already is at in that book, which is that she moved on, she got to a point where she accepted that even though there was some hope for that relationship maybe being something, the right decision was made on both of their sides, because ultimately Lee seems to be in a better spot, she's in a better spot, and it could have just been like a really neat way to reference it without needing to super dive into it. Like, you know, two lines in the book could have been something nice, but you know, that's that. I haven't listened to the full interview, I just skimmed through to get the answers because I think a lot of people were waiting for those answers, but yeah, that's the situation there. So slightly unfortunate, a little bit messy, but okay, the character is named Feng now. I don't really mind that it's not Pao, because it's ultimately a minor enough character to where I'm like, okay, at least some consideration was given to this. It wasn't just an error. That's fine. But yeah, we'll move on. Last thing to cover is just that there's been some smallish updates on Avatar Legends, the fighting game, mostly as they build up to, I think, what is it again? Yeah, the closed alpha test is coming up in the first week or two of December. The applications for it are now closed, but again, remember there will be a worldwide alpha test at some point. Otherwise, they've just highlighted a few things, showing off Sokka again, and they did put up this video going over support characters and what they do. They showed this with Aang. His 3 support characters that you can choose from are Appa, Gyatso, and Momo. What the support characters do is that they sort of augment one of your abilities in some way. So like Gyatso increases, I think, the speed and controllability of your air scooter. Momo increases the speed and how much control you have over your glider move. And then Appa, I need to look into the mechanics of the game a little bit more, allows you to, I think, transition between specific types of moves quicker. I'm not really sure. I'd have to look into it a bit more. So it looks like they're getting into the kind of weeds a little bit here. There is strategy about what you choose as your support, in terms of some of them might be more about movement, some of them might be about sort of like cancelling animations a little bit quicker, which you might want to do. And we'll have to wait and see who the rest of the characters are. As I've said before, I think with this game, I'm mostly interested to see what characters are actually in here when they start to tease story mode stuff, finding out what that all is, and especially if we do get like characters from eras outside of Avatar and Korra. That's going to be exciting to see. But yeah, otherwise that has been the video. Let me know what your thoughts are on all of this stuff. Are you going to be picking up any Avatar Magic the Gathering stuff? Lighted up as well? Did you forget about Team Avatar Treasury Omnibus like I did? Thoughts on, once again, information about the Aang movie never coming out in the most obvious way, this time through crew clothing, getting actually maybe our clearest look at the Aang movie design. Let me know what you think of all this, but yes, that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.